Most travelers think the cruise comeback is over. They think we've reached the ceiling. Paradoxically, the data tells a much more aggressive and expensive story. 37.2 million people took to the seas in 2025. 37.2 million people. That's not a cruise industry, that's a migration. And if you're over 50, you know that where there is a migration, there is a line for the buffet that we simply don't have the patience for anymore. And here is the trap. While the crowds are growing, the middle ground of cruising is literally disappearing. If you don't understand the shift happening in the global fleet right now, you aren't just booking a vacation. You are walking into a capacity squeeze that will cost you thousands. If you are over 50, retired, or perhaps finally planning that bucket list voyage, this report is your survival guide. We are officially in a super cycle. Intent to cruise again has hit a all-time high of 89.7%. Nearly 9 out of 10 people who cruise want to go back, which means roughly 10% of people who cruise never want to return. I have met these people. They typically encounter the buffet queue on embarkation day, made direct eye contact with a tray of what the sign was calling beef bourguignon, and they have not emotionally recovered ever since. For our demographic, the 50-plus traveler who has graduated from the 24-hour nacho fountain experience of mass-market cruising, this is not merely a travel trend. This is a market signal, and the signal is saying with very clearly, act now or pay significantly more later. Here is how I am going to structure the next minutes. 5 findings from this report. I have ranked them by urgency, not importance, and I want to be clear up front. Some of what follows will reassure you. Some of it will alarm you. I have deliberately sequenced them so you cannot predict which is which. Finding 1 feels like bad news. Stay with it, because finding 2 will reframe the picture entirely. Finding 3 will challenge where you think you should be sailing. Finding 4, the 2019 ghost. And I want you to remember I said this. I will make you question a strategy that has worked for you for years. And finding 5, I will let it speak for itself when we get there. It has earned that. Let's begin. Here is the cold reality. The cruise industry injected $198.8 billion into the global economy in 2024, the highest figure on record, up 18% from the prior year. For context, that is more than the GDP of several European countries I could name. And yet, remarkably, the Wi-Fi on board still costs extra. I find this fascinating. I have also finding it infuriating. In passenger terms, 9.2 million people sailed in the first quarter of 2025 alone, a new single quarter benchmark. The ships are fuller, the prices are higher, the cruise lines have more leverage than at any point in the industry's 40-year history. If you book the way you did 5 years ago, you are going to pay a procrastination tax. It would make a Swiss banker blush. And I live in Switzerland. I know precisely how much it takes to make a Swiss banker blush. Subscribe. I decode these reports every week, so you don't have to. Look at this chart. From 1.9 million passengers in 1985 to 37.2 million in 2025. 40 years of uninterrupted near vertical growth, interrupted only by a global pandemic, which interrupted most things. I want to be transparent with you about something, because I think you deserve it. And frankly, it is the kind of thing most travel channels would quietly leave on the editing room floor. I have spent the last week inside the CLIA One Resource passenger database. I have looked at the global fleet order books through 2037. I have gone through the destination market share tables, the source market breakdowns, the demographic profiles, all 200 plus data points of it. No fluff, just the real deal. But when I finished reading this report, there was one finding that made me stop. Not because it was surprising in an academic sense, because it directly implicated a booking decision I had already made. I had followed the conventional wisdom. I had trusted the strategy that worked for me for several years. This report told me very clearly that the strategy was no longer valid. I will show you exactly which finding that was before this video is done, and more importantly, what I did about it. We are going to use this data to ensure you keep living that millionaire lifestyle on a champagne budget. Finding one. You might think, I'll just wait for a last-minute deal. That is a dangerous game in 2026. 78.4% of cruises are already planning to book within the next 2 years. Nearly 8 in 10 of your fellow travelers are not browsing, they are booking now. And 63.4% of them are using professional travel advisors, people with access to group rate contracts, pre-release cabin allocations, and upgrade notification systems that the general public simply never sees. The wait-and-see approach in this market is the equivalent of arriving at a Michelin-starred restaurant on a Saturday evening at 9 o'clock without a reservation, and then being surprised to discover that there is no available table. All the tables are booked since January by people using a travel advisor. Finding one feels like bad news, and it is if you are still operating on your 2019 strategy. Stay with me, finding two reframes the entire picture. Finding two, and here is where the good news begins, with an asterisk. Look at this data carefully. In 2018, mid-sized ships, those with 1,000 to 3,000 berths, made up 57% of the global fleet. By 2037, that collapses just to 34.6%. Meanwhile, the mega ships, 3,000 berths or more, expand from 19.5 to nearly 32% of the fleet. And the small ultra-luxury expedition vessels hold their position at roughly a third. The middle-sized ships are disappearing like a decent meal in economy class, steadily, quietly, without ceremony. It is like a high school reunion. You are either in the giant gymnasium with every person you have ever met, including several you made a decision to forget, or you are at a private after party where the people who have good wine know how to use an indoor voice and are not blocking the exit with a selfie stick. For our demographic, the 50-plus traveler who has moved past the buffet line phase of their cruising life, the splitting is not a threat. It is a gift. This is why lines like Explora Journeys are exploding, while the standard balcony on a 5,000-passenger ship is becoming a logistics nightmare. You're either in the Avon or Yacht Club bubble, or you're in the Stampede. There is no longer a middle ground. The megaships offer amenities that border on the absurd. Water parks, go-kart tracks, a robotics bar that will make you a cocktail with the warmth of a parking meter. Impressive engineering, impressive logistics, and about as intimate as a regional airport on a bank holiday. The luxury and expedition ships offer something different. A passenger-to-crew ratio that means the staff knows your name, your preferred table, and your preferred pre-dinner drink by day 2, without being asked. Provided you make the right choice before the inventory disappears. Before we go further, I want to ask you something. Based on what I have just described, the splitting market, the disappearing middle, the choice is in front of us. Mega ship, luxury, or expedition? And tell me the one ship name in the middle ground that has it right. 2 words in the comments. That is all I need from you. I have an hypothesis where you land, and if I'm wrong, which I occasionally am, though it hurts me, it will become its own video. Your answers as the data set. Let's find out. Finding 3, and this one surprised me. Look at this chart. 8 consecutive waves of CLIA survey data. 8. And in every single one, approximately half of cruisers are driving to their embarkation ports. Not flying, driving. This is not a trend. That is a confirmed preference that the industry has spent 8 years constantly documenting and the general travel media ignoring. I will confess, I was late to this realization. I used to believe that flying was the only legitimate way to begin a vacation. The ritual of it, the airport lounge, the aspirational snack that costs 11 euros and tastes of cardboard and misplaced optimism, the security theater, and I use the word theater with generosity, because the last time I witnessed a man spend 45 minutes arguing with a self-service check-in machine, it was less West End and more experimental fringe. My wife looked at me during a 4-hour delay in Zurich and said, "Alex, why are we here? Fighting for overhead bin space when the ship is 4 hours away by car?" She was right. She is always right. And I acknowledge this immediately rather than discover it 6 hours later. Now, there is a wrinkle. There is always a wrinkle. The same data shows that the most popular drive to embarkation cities are also the most congested in the country. And the pre-night hotel market in those cities has responded to this information with the enthusiasm of a cruise line that has just discovered the concept of ancillary revenue. Average pre-night hotel rates in major embarkation cities up 23% year on year. The cruise line got you to the port for free. The hotel adjacent to the terminal charges you accordingly, with a smile. Before I give you the countermove on the pre-night, and there is a very good one, I want to plant something in your mind. We are roughly 40% through today's material, and the next finding is the one I receive most questions in my comments every week. Alex, where should I be cruising in 2026? Not the brochure answer, the real one. The data has a very specific answer. It has an average passenger age attached to it. And I can tell you with reasonable confidence, it is not where most of you are currently looking. First, the pre-night countermove. Here is the strategic play. The same report shows that 64% of experienced cruisers now deliberately book a pre-night stay. Not as anxiety management, not because they are nervous about missing the ship, as an intentional extension of the voyage itself. The port city is the appetizer. The ship is the main course. You do not gulp an appetizer. You taste it slowly, at the table, with a view and a wine list you've actually read. Book the pre-night 12 months out, not 12 days out. The pricing curve on port city hotel mirrors the cruise lines exactly. Early wins, late pays. Take note of this if you have a drive to departure within the next 18 months. Now, the answer to where you should actually be cruising. This is slide 10 of the CLIA report. Every major destination region, real passenger numbers, 2024 versus 2025. Let's walk through it together. The Caribbean remains the undisputed heavyweight. 16.27 million passengers sailed to the Caribbean, Bahamas, and Bermuda in 2025. That is 44% of all global cruise passengers. At a market share so dominant, it qualifies as a monopoly on the collective imagination of the first-time cruiser. If you have been to a popular Caribbean port in peak season, you understand that 16 million people sounds like a brochure headline and feels in practice like a very large, very cheerful queue with the better weather. Now look at where the growth is. Asia and China as a destination up 19.6% year on year, from 2.6 million to 3.11 million passengers. The fastest growing destination region on Earth, by a margin that is not close. South America and the Panama Canal up 13.8%, from 1.05 million to 1.20 million passengers. And here is the detail worth pausing on. The average passenger age on South American itineraries is 59 years old. Fellow bon vivants, that is our demographic, sailing ahead of the curve, quite literally at a very respectable speed. And here is a number that almost nobody is talking about. China as a source market. Passengers originating from China is up 15.8% in 2025. That is the fastest growing source market in the top 10 globally. When the world's largest population discovers cruising on the scale the data suggests is coming, the destination footprint will reprice accordingly, and quickly. Here is the uncomfortable implication of every growth number I just gave you. Markets that are actually alternative, Asia, South America, are now on the radar of every major cruise line. What is priced today as undiscovered itinerary will be priced in 2028 as mainstream. The window to experience these regions at current pricing, current capacity levels, and current passenger density is measured in booking days, not years. Booking an Asia or South America itinerary at 2026 pricing and experiencing it before 2028 demand reprices it entirely is the kind of move that separates the strategic traveler from the person still doing what worked 5 years ago. Which, as we established in Finding One, is an ever-increasing expensive habit. The last trend I want to walk you through is the one most travel content skips entirely, because it sounds technical. I am going to make one very specific claim before we get there. This trend will affect your sleep quality on your next cruise more than your destination, more than your cabin category, more than your deck level, more than any itinerary decision we have discussed today. If you have ever been awake at 3 in the morning listening to what sounded like a minor industrial event occurring somewhere directly beneath your cabin, stay with me for 4 minutes. This one is for you. Finding 5. I said I'd let it speak for itself. 57% of ships currently on order are multi-fuel capable. LNG, methanol, alternative fuel systems. The industry is, with considerable financial commitment, transitioning its entire fleet profile. Most coverage of this story stops there. Green cruising, sustainability targets are marvelous. All true, and also almost entirely beside the point for what I want to tell you. Here is what 57% multi-fuel capable on order means in practical, human, non-technical terms. Newer ships are quieter. Yes, quieter, acoustic and vibrations-wise. The vibration of an LNG or methanol-capable vessel is different from an heavy fuel oil ship that entered service 15 or more years ago. The engine room architecture is different. The hull construction is different. The acoustic insulation is different. An older vessel running on conventional heavy fuel oil has the acoustic profile of an active motorway underpass. Poetic. Not what we are seeking at 3 a.m. in the Mediterranean, with a shore excursion at 7. Now, the complication, and it is an important one. 57% of ships on order does not mean 57% of ships currently sailing. The active fleet today is weighted toward older single-fuel vessels, especially in the mass market and mid-range categories. The multi-fuel advantage is concentrated in the new builds, which means it is concentrated in premium and luxury lines with aggressive order books running through 2027 and 2028. Booking a vessel built before 2018 in the budget category and expecting a quiet, vibration-free night is, and I deploy the phrase with full awareness of what it implies, hunting a unicorn, a noisy unicorn. In international waters at 3 a.m. The counter move costs you nothing and it takes 30 seconds. Check the build year before you book. It is on every cruise line specification page. A 2023, 2024 or 2025 build on multi-fuel capable vessel is not simply an environmental choice. It is a sleep choice, and in our demographic sleep, like the suite upgrade and the pre-night hotel, is non-negotiable. Before the checklist, and I said I would come back to something. The finding that directly implicated the booking decision I had already made. Finding 4. The last-minute upgrade is gone. No amount of math and complicated formulas will bring it back. I had a Norway sailing on the books, premium balcony cabin. Very fine. I was waiting, as I had always waited, for the upgrade offer to arrive in my inbox sometime between 8 and 12 weeks before departure. It was a system I refined over several years. It worked perfectly. I was, if I'm being honest, extremely proud of it. When 78.4% of cruises are booking early and 63.4% are working through the advisors with special rates and early released inventory, the cabin that used to sit and sold at 12 weeks out is simply not sitting there anymore. Someone booked it in January using a travel advisor, even before I was waiting for it. I waited for the deal. The deal did not come. And what came was a price increase, a fully committed inventory report, and a mild existential recalibration of my entire booking strategy. I moved the booking forward. I took the suite at full booking price. Whether that was the right call, I will tell you in a future video, when I'm standing on that balcony with a glass of something appropriately Norwegian and a somewhat vindicated expression. Now, the checklist. Screenshot this. This is how you win in the current market. 1. Book 12 plus months out, with 37.2 million passengers in 2025, a 7.5% annual growth rate, and a forecast of 42.1 million by 2029. The best suites go first. This is not a suggestion. It is mathematical certainty. The only people who argue with this point are the people who missed the suite. Second, use a traveler advisor. 63.4% of successful cruises already do. They have the pre-release inventory, they have group rate contracts, they have upgrade notification systems. If you are not using one, you are competing against people who are. Third, build in the pre-night. 64% of experienced cruises now treat it as the first act of the cruise. Book it 12 months out. Arrive the evening before, sip something with a view. The ship will still be there in the morning. It is the size of a small city. It is difficult to miss. 4. Choose your segment. Now, mega or expedition, the middle, 57% of the fleet in 2018, collapsing to 34.6% by 2037, is aging out. The market is making this decision with or without your input. I would suggest making it with. 5. Check the build year. Multi-fuel post 2022. Quieter, smoother, better technology, better sleep. The specification is public. It takes 30 seconds to find it. It is, by some margin, the cheapest upgrade available and significantly less expensive than the suite upgrade I eventually took on the Norway sailing. If this checklist is going to your travel agent before your next booking conversation, give this video a like. It tells me this kind of data-driven deep dive is worth your time and mine. The data is clear. The cruise industry is not recovering. It has evolved into a $198.8 billion global force with a 40-year uninterrupted growth trajectory and nearly 9 out of 10 passengers already planning their return. The data-driven Epicurean knows that a record year for the industry does not have to mean a record expense for your wallet. It means the opposite. If you understand the structure, act early and stop booking the way you did in 2019. I want to tell you thank you. You have been in the comments over the last weeks asking specifically about this CLIA data, whether the numbers are as significant as the headlines suggest, whether it was worth a dedicated video. You are right to ask. They are. And this video is by you, for you, and because of you. Remember, the best cruise ship, the best cruise line is the one I am on now. 2 questions. I read every answer. First, which of the 5 findings surprised you most? Second, mega ship, luxury or expedition? 2 words. Where do you land? Your answers are becoming the next video. If you want to see exactly how these record-breaking numbers translate into an actual sailing experience, watch this video over here. You can check here my last adventure in which I combined the mega ship and the luxury one. Which one was my favorite? See you over there.